Hi everyone, this is Gary Wilson. Welcome to tonight's live Investor Agent Workshop. Also, welcome aboard to all of you who have been through any of the other programs. Some of you have been through two or more, and almost all of you have been through Investor Agent, but some of you have taken the programs for flipping for profits, managing rentals, which is turning rental problems into real estate profits, or buying rentals, which is rental profits without the pain. And wholesaling, I believe, is out there now, but we're going to do, we did several webinars back before the end of the year just on wholesaling, and just as I suspected, the response was really good. I know you guys were asking for that as early as last year, so we're going to do an event just for that in February. I'll keep you guys posted on the date and time and so forth, and we'll roll it out and give you more of a full explanation of that. So welcome aboard to all of you. All of you, of course, are eligible for any of those. I believe once you're a student, you get them for half price, if I'm not mistaken. Any case, for the new folks, a little bit of housekeeping here. What we do is this is a live webinar. It's unscripted, unfiltered, so you're going to see and hear everything as it unfolds. It is interactive. Initially, everybody is by default muted. Okay, that doesn't mean that we can't bring you live audio, which we do from time to time. All right, but for the most part, just type in your questions in your question box, okay, and I will get to them as they come in, and I will take breaks throughout the content to address your questions. Okay. Let's see. We have a question here that already came in, or let's see. I didn't see the goal planning paperwork, but my main goal is to get over my fear to do a seminar meeting or webinar and do it. I attended a meetup meeting and felt over my head. Okay, so let's see. That is Diana. Hey, Diana. Let's do a strategy call. So if you could shoot me an email or a text message, and let's set up a time, because you've actually taken the first step, which is you should be proud of yourself. Okay, so we'll make sure that you're prepared. We'll make sure the timing is right, but first and foremost, let's make sure we do a strategy call, and we'll get you up and running on the right track, doing the right things the right way. Herminia, how you doing, Herminia? I did some of the personal sessions. Hey, Herminia, share that with me via email, so it's private. And if you want to volunteer to go over that on the webinar, we can certainly do that. Okay. Any case, so back to this. From time to time, I will unmute you if you're brand new, and we will be open live mic. The reason why everybody's muted at the beginning is, as you can imagine, it would get quite chaotic if 100 people were trying to speak at the same time. You also get to determine the subject matter. So I do that by looking at the emails I get throughout the week. And if you can be very explicit and say, Gary, I want to cover X, and we'll cover X the next meeting. A lot of times I just pick the subject based on the types of emails that I'm getting. So if more emails are about, what is the first thing I do, or how can I apply what I've determined from the school report using one of the marketing campaigns, which is actually what we're going to do tonight. Okay, I'm going to give you some beginning stuff and one of the more advanced techniques to show you how you use that. So in any case, you pick the subject, and the more input you give me, the more these webinars will be geared towards what you want to discuss. And then the one-on-ones are what we do for the strategy sessions, where we actually go through the execution of any particular marketing. So it's a three-pronged approach. We get excellent results as a result, and all it requires of you is to participate. So welcome aboard to everybody. Tonight what we're going to do is we're going to go right into the school report. As always, it ends up being a very repeat topic, and it's for a good thing, because if you get the school report, matter of fact, the guy named David Evans from Cummings, Georgia, just created his own. We looked at his this morning on a one-on-one strategy call, and he said other agents are looking at that and they're just scratching their heads thinking, man, that's amazing stuff. How do I get that? So in any case, you guys got it if you've already built it. So let's go through that. Let me fast forward here. Hang on one second. I can't remember the exact page number, and this is a different format I'm using. So give me a second to get through to that particular page, the correct page, and I'm going to bring one up, as a sample, and we will just dig right in. So while I'm doing that, if anybody has any specific questions on the school report, now will be a good time to let me know, because I will address those as we're going through the content, okay? So let me do this in fast motion here. Whoops, that was a little bit too fast, I think. Or maybe it wasn't. Let me see here. Okay, computer. Yeah, I think I've got to go a little bit further. That's Melissa. Okay, we're getting close, so hang on one second. And we will be there in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Okay, I think that's next. And here it is. Now the question is how can I turn this? So let me see if I have a rotate button. All right, I don't see a rotate button, and I'm afraid that, oh, here we go. Bingo. All right, we're in good shape. Okay, so for everybody on here, for this should be, we're going to go over this in a little bit of detail. So those of you who are veterans, if you haven't yet done this, or let's say you did it in your market center and they haven't been keeping it current, please pay attention. For all the new folks, you definitely want to pay attention to this. Okay, I'm going to describe the report, what it is, how we create it, how we use it, and why we use it, and then we're going to give some specific examples. Okay, and I'll get as far as I can on this before we call it a day. I don't want to give too much detail. I don't want to overwhelm you. So I want to focus on the report itself and give one example of how it's used. That way you understand why it's so critical. And then we can go into more examples next week if we have to on its use. So first things first, school report. Go ahead and write in your notes. Everybody here should have a pen or pencil handy and a piece of paper, or if you're on your laptop and you don't mind splitting your screen, you can type into your own notes, okay? Also, just as a suggestion, the most successful students we've seen doing this are doing one of two things. Number one is when they get the access to the modules, they save the audio-visual portion on their computer, and you can either strip off the MP3 using it. There's an app you can get for free to do that. Strip off the audio, make it MP3. But also you can get an app on your phone to watch it. In other words, you can watch this recording, for example, that you'll get tomorrow on your phone. GoToWebinar app is free. All right. So what I want you to do is also print the written material that accompanies each module. So each module is going to have audio, visual, and written material. Print the module, the written portion, put it in a binder. Just get a simple 3-ring binder. And as you go through the content, as you go through the modules, you're going to write in there your aha moments, take your notes, and because this is called experiential training. You're gonna learn more by doing, and you're going to actually practice what we preach as you go through the program. And as a result, it ends up being what we call experiential training, or in layman's terms, on-the-job training, or learn and earn. Okay. All right. So back to this. School report is an Excel spreadsheet. That's all it is an Excel spreadsheet. Every office I teach at gets a copy of the Excel spreadsheet at the end of the day. Okay, so I send that out. Also, this comes in your training material. All right. So yes, you can create your own if you'd like to. I don't mind that. It's as long as you don't mind. It does take a little bit of time. In fact, it'll take you probably a couple of hours to build it the very first time. All right, so let me describe this. Excel spreadsheet, columns and rows. Columns represent schools. This could be a high school name. In other words, Hopewell could be a high school. It could represent a school district. In other words, Hopewell could be a school district. Or it could simply represent a school cluster. Okay? And what I mean by that is in certain states, I'll give the example of Georgia, for example. Or actually, let's do Louisiana, since I was just in Louisiana. So in Louisiana, you have high schools in any parish that are fed by one or more junior highs that are also fed by one or more elementary schools. So you might have, in other words, one high school, 2 junior highs, and 3 elementary schools all in the same cluster. In other words, the 3 elementary schools feed the 2 junior highs, and the 2 junior highs feed the 1 high school. All right, in Canada, it's the same thing. If you're up in Canada, we use different information because we can't really get the school information from the MLS. So we use MLS areas up there, but the same concept. In any case, in this example, let's say Hopewell is a school cluster. Okay, in that school cluster, we want to know how many properties are actively listed, and we want to know how many properties have sold in the last 90 days. Okay, and we want to know that information in price bands, and we use $50,000 price bands all the way to $500,000, and then we use $100,000 bands up to $1 million, and then we use $250,000 bands after that. So in other words, let's take the very first cell, upper left-hand corner, leftmost column, uppermost row. We can see by doing an MLS search on how many properties are actively listed, i.e. active, in Hopewell area between $100,000 and $150,000, and the answer is 35. Okay. So each cell is the result of an individual MLS search, and this one then is, for example, is how many properties have sold in Hopewell in the last 90 days between 100 and 150,000? The answer is 26. Okay, so as you might imagine, this is going to take a while, and it does. That's why we recommend that your receptionist or one person in your office create the report and then put it on the office website, typically under like what I would call a resource page. And then every agent in an office will have access to this. And here's why. This is so important. Let's just start at the left over here. Look at the third row between 200 and 250,000 in a Hopewell school area. We can see there are 8 homes actively listed. And we can furthermore see that only 1 has sold in the last 90 days. Okay, 8 under the active column, 1 under the sold column. So let me ask you guys a question here. If you saw this data, and you were, just say you're using your license in a traditional sense, you're working with owner occupants, is this the type of area where you would want to go spend your hard-earned time, energy, and money? So let me look for some answers, or go ahead and give me a shout out. Just type in your question box. Yes, you would do business here, or no, you wouldn't. Okay? And remember, yep, 8 properties went for sale and only 1 is sold. And the answer is, you're right. A lot of you are responding, Jacqueline. The answer is no. It might feel good getting listings. It does feel good getting listings, all right? But the reality is only 1 has sold. You'd go hungry. I mean, it feels good getting listings, but they have to actually sell for us to make money. So in this area, this tells me something's going on. People want to get out of there, and nobody wants to go in, okay? Everybody's answering no. Good. All right. That's one example. Let's look at another example. Look at in South Butler, okay, active sold South Butler, between 450,000 and 500,000. We can see that currently only 1 home is actively listed for sale, and yet in the last 90 days, 2 have sold. So the ratio 2 to 1 is actually really good. In other words, twice as many homes are selling than are actively listed for sale. Okay, but the challenge is not the ratio sold to active. So the challenge here is volume. There's only 1 home for sale, and only 2 have sold. So let me ask you this question. Is this where you'd want to go spend your hard-earned time, energy, and money with your license, right? And I'll let you guys type it in. Just give me a quick shout-out, yes or no. Okay. Again, you're exactly right. The answer is no. Again, we'd go hungry. There's not enough volume to feed all of us. So the answer is no there. All right, now let's go over to, let me reduce the panel. So I'm not going to be able to see your questions here for a moment, so bear with me. All right, let's look at Seneca. Let's go to the second row. In Seneca school area, I can see between 150 and 200,000. I can see 28 homes have sold, or currently active, 28 are actively listed. And in 90 days, 65 have sold. That sounds like a pretty darn good area. You've got a more than 2 to 1 ratio, and you got volume. You got people willing to sell and people willing to buy. The next row, between 200 and 250,000, 15 are active and 39 have sold. Between, let's see, 250 and 300,000, 13 are active and 35 have sold. Okay, so what this tells us, and let's just stop there because the next one's pretty good, but it's 28 sold, 24 active. That, I mean, I do business there, but the fact is these three price ranges between 150,000 and 300,000, in that $150,000 price range, we have people willing to sell, and we have people willing to buy. Okay, and the numbers of people willing to buy is roughly twice the number of people willing to sell. So that tells us now we have two critical factors. We've got people willing to sell, so we have volume, and we have people willing to buy at a greater rate, which gives us velocity. So let me ask you guys this question. Let me bring my panel back over so I can see your responses. Show of hands, how many of you would like to do business in this area between 150 and 300,000, where you have people willing to sell and people willing to buy? So give me some responses there. Come on, computer. Oh, here we go. Let me go back. Yes, absolutely. Thanks, guys, for the good responses. And yeah, count me in. And I think Roger says, I like Seneca from 100 to 450. Absolutely right. So this morning on the call with David Evans, we identified a couple of really good sweet areas, and he said it was like affirmed by some of his recent activity. And also what this does is just tells you, let's say, for example, let me bring the panel back over here. Hang on one second. Let's say you're in this area and you get one of those, a property comes up for sale, and you have a buyer who wanted to be in that school area because they have children aged, 5, 10, and 15, all right? And you see something pop up. Number one, and number two, you can demonstrate by using this data, showing this to your clients, that they better get out there right away with you to look at that property and do not hesitate, but make an offer, because I'm willing to bet in this area they've got multiple offers. Maybe not all the time, but enough times to warrant speedy action. So one of the beautiful and best things about this score report, guys, is it does so much for you. Granted, it takes effort, but it's very much worth it, because now, instead of you trying to convince your clients where they should be doing their, buying homes or investing in the case of investors, all right, it'll tell them exactly where to be. They can see, oh, I don't want to be looking around here and working around here. There's almost no volume, right? Or maybe they look up here, lots of people willing to sell, 65 homes are sold, and 65 homes are currently active, and 39 have sold in 90 days. I might do business there, but the challenge is you're going to have a lot of signs in the yard that are not moving, okay? And consumers aren't stupid. They're kind of savvy, and they're going to notice this, right? And what it does is it drives down offers, okay? So, and the reality is more people want to get out of there than want to get in. So in any case, all these factors tell you, number one, where you would want to do your business. Number two is where your consumers are telling you they want to be. And without going into a lot of detail, I can tell this is one of those areas because I have people willing to sell, and I have people willing to buy in greater numbers than people selling. All right, now, let's put on our investor agent hat for a second. So hang on one second. Okay, and you have an investor who calls you up, and they'll say, hey, Roger, I want to flip a home over here because I grew up in this neighborhood, South Butler, beautiful neighborhood, homes going between 450 and 600,000. But does that mean it's a good neighborhood for flipping? You follow what I'm saying? Just because they live there, yes, it could be a beautiful neighborhood, but it might not be a very good neighborhood for flipping, for investing, because there's not a lot of volume and there's not a lot of velocity. Look, one active, 2 sold, 3 active, 1 sold. I mean, it might feel good selling a $600,000 property, but the fact is it's not going to happen that much. So what you do is you show this report to your prospective investor, let them see for themselves. Over here in Seneca, between 150 and 3 is where they want to be, because it's where they can find inventory, and they can also sell the inventory once they've remodeled it, okay? So, and the fact is, guys, I'll just tell you, investors have to sell their properties to stay in business. And I would rather flip homes over here making $50,000 a flip okay, in this 150 to 3 range in Seneca, than attempt to sell a property way down here in the million plus range. Because what can we tell people right now about homes over $1 million in most parts of North America? Yeah, nobody's selling and nobody's buying. You know, everybody wants to flip a home, or if you're an agent, sell a home and make a, you know, $30,000 to $60,000 commission, no doubt about that. But if the volume is telling you beyond a shadow of a doubt that nobody's selling and nobody's buying, you would not want to go there and spend your hard-earned time, energy, and money, and your client should not want to try to flip over there. So shown in this report saves you a bundle of time, right? It also helps you, I mean, there's so many benefits to this. It helps establish credibility and authority, right? It does the work for you once it's created. You don't have to persuade your clients where they should be. The data shows them where they should be. Okay? All right, now before we go any further, let me pull back my panel and look for some questions. So shoot me some questions, guys, while you can. A lot of people are saying, I want to work in that area. And I'll tell you what, let me see, who was that? Let me go back to this, count me in. I think that was Max. Hey, Max. Let me just make sure that's not a Maxine. Hang on one second, because we actually have a Maxine. And what happens is the panel truncates names sometimes. Okay? It is Maxine. How about that? I'm glad I checked. So Maxine, I can, if you want to, shoot me a message sometime, Maxine, email, what have you, a text message. And if you haven't gotten the school report up in your market center, just let me know. We'll see if we can help you get that thing generated. But it's very important for you to have it, because you're going to see that I can pretty much assure you in your area, you've got sweet spots like this too. Every area does, okay? Some more, some less, but the fact of the matter is you have got to produce this report to know where they are without any shadow of a doubt, okay? This basically eliminates all doubt, because these aren't ratios, these aren't statistics, this is actual raw data. And when you're making critical investment decisions, you can't go wrong with raw data. You have to have the actual data. So, all right, let me reduce let me first check for, make sure everybody's okay. Hey, Zig, how you doing, buddy? Good call this morning, Zig, by the way. Let me see. I think everybody's okay. I'm going to, give me 1 second, guys, to bring up your question panel so I can make sure we're current there before we go any further. Okay, so this is Zig. All right, Zig is asking, when breaking out the community by school districts, how do you account for the mix of private schools, or do you simply focus on public school districts? No, excellent question, Zig. So we definitely want to include as much school information, as much data in as many areas as possible. And the good news is, in almost every area we've been to, if you can use school district, Zig, it'll include all the sales data in that district. Okay, whether the students went to private schools or not, the fact is even if they're going to a private school, if their house is in a public school district, which of course they all are, it'll be counted in that data. Remember, we're just pulling data from the MLS on active listings and sold properties in a particular area. Now, in certain parts of the country, actually, I'll just give you an example. Up in Canada and Montreal, particularly Toronto and Ontario, a lot more of our students go to private schools than do in the States. You guys would be surprised to see the numbers on that. There are certain parts of the States where a lot more students go to private schools, like in certain parts of California. More students go to private schools. So if you're doing this at the school level, you would still type in the school name, okay? And it'll, because people want to know what areas have what sales data, and they're counted, okay? Now, most MLS systems, you drop down your menu on school name, and you look for their school names. If you don't see it, you can actually add it as a field, okay? But more often than not, regardless if people go to private schools, you would still use the public school information, and that as long as their house is in that school district, it'll be counted in the sales data. So that's an excellent, excellent question. All right, let me see here. That was Zig. So let me go see what else we got. Hang on 1 second. This is Maria. except in Mars. Yeah, yeah. Some of you guys are from the Pennsylvania area. Some school districts up there are very, very good, very popular. Lots of high ratings. And by the way, real quick, this school report, as you notice, has nothing to do with the school rankings, the school ratings. It has everything to do with sales data. This is Jacqueline. What ratio should we go by? Excellent question. So, Jacqueline, I look primarily anywhere where I have more higher sold numbers than active numbers, okay? And I also look to see double-digit active numbers. So any numbers in the double digits on the active side and solds that are more, and preferably if I can find an area where there's twice as many solds in 90 days as there are current actives, that is always going to be a sweet spot for doing business. So that ratio then roughly is 2 to 1, Jackie. But again, you can go down to 1.5 to 1 or 1.1 to 1 as long as there's more sold transactions than active listings, all right? But the other more important thing, though, is, Jackie, is also the volume. So if you notice, I might not want to do business in South Butler at that low range, 100 to 200,000. I mean, I can make money there, but there's not a lot of volume, so there's going to be more competition. I'd rather be over here where I've got volume and velocity both, okay? So I just want to help give you some why behind my answer there, but that is an excellent question. Okay, this is, let me see, hang on one second. Let me go back to my attendee panel, see who that is. Oh, Siri. Hi, Siri, how are you? So Siri is asking, okay, how do we get good deals on house in those kind of areas? Okay, so Siri, what we do here is all this data is based on sales data, which predominantly is going to be retail. So later on in the training, when you get to like Module 4, for example, is simply a summary of all the marketing campaigns. And this is really important, guys, particularly the new folks. A lot of times new students are wondering, what do I do now? Or how do I get all these strategies? So if you go to the member section, you're all by default silver members, which gives you access to not only the training material, but also all of the previously recorded webinars, and they're all cataloged by subject type. So in there, you're going to see all the marketing campaigns have their own unique webinar, all right? And next month, we're actually going to have them transcribed for you. So not only will we get the audio visual, you're also going to get the written form of that. By the way, give me a shout out. Who likes what I just said there? Because what that means is you're now getting your own library, not just of the training material, but every single campaign, all the negotiating, everything is audio visual and written. I mean, you're literally creating your own library. So in any case, back to answer your question specifically, Siri, later on you'll get techniques like there's a letter campaign we use to locate inventory in these areas, but you're not locating retail inventory. You're locating inventory where the owner is likely going through some type of trauma, okay? We don't necessarily look for beat-up properties. I mean, you can do that, and that's certainly part of the business, but more importantly, we're looking for decent properties, but where the owner has a problem they need to solve, and we're going to help them solve the problem. So the letter, for example, that I teach in the classroom when I teach the free 3-hour class, excuse me, that letter ties directly back to this. Matter of fact, what we'll do is we'll give you some, in coming weeks, we'll go over examples of marketing campaigns and tie them back to this school report. So it's important that you participate in these webinars, and if you absolutely can't, definitely get the recording, okay, because we're going to show you the applications of this throughout the year. All right, so the letter, for example, Siri, you would use a letter to write to owners of properties in the Seneca area, for example, okay, and you would focus on the owners of properties who we can determine, based on looking at public records, that they may be going through a divorce, they may be going through bankruptcy, they may be going through probate proceedings, which is when someone passes away, they may be going through foreclosure proceedings, right? Maybe the property is still in their name, but the bank has given them notice of default, and they're now 90 days past due, and the bank is getting ready to work with a closing at a foreclosure attorney to start the foreclosure process. All those people are candidates. We've used the letter also for FSBOs and expireds, only in these sweet spot areas, okay? Because you can get every area too there. The multiple opportunities, I just want to give you an example of one that we'll go over here in coming weeks. So yes, you use the information to know where to go here, and use the marketing techniques to know who to approach in those areas. This is Maxine again. Will do. I will work on this week too. Excellent. Thanks, Maxine. This is Roger. Stats are quarterly. Yeah, Roger, I personally like to create this every 90 days, but because we have people literally from California, Montreal, all the way down to South Florida, I will tell you this. If you're, say, like in the San Francisco Bay Area, Roger, I would create this every 30 days. Make it a 30-day frequency. Most parts of the country, 90 days is a great time frame. It gives you a pretty good snapshot of what's happening. But if you're in an area, say like, where have I been that's things are going pretty, Nashville. Let's take Nashville. All right. I would make this maybe a 60-day report in Nashville. I would probably make it 90 days in Atlanta. And the way I know how to do that is, of course, I've been to all those areas and I've studied every single area I've been to. You look at these ratios. You also look at your days on market report on your MLS. And if your days on market is routinely very short, like 15 days or 18 days or 20 days or something, 21 days, then make this a 30-day report. If your days on market is around 33, 38, something like that, 41 days, make that a 60-day report. All right, if your average days on market is approaching 60, which is a 2-month turnaround, 60 days, then make this a 90-day report. So, Roger, I appreciate you bringing it up because that I don't know that we discussed that a lot, and it is important. You can use other existing MLS reports to determine the frequency of this report. And I know, Roger, you're up in northern New Jersey. I would probably make yours 60 days, but look at your MLS, look at the days on market, and if you see that your days on market is creeping up past 40, approaching 60, make it a 90-day report, because you want to get a good, solid snapshot of the area. In order to do that, you've got to go out far enough to give you the snapshot. But more importantly, if you can't go out too far because maybe it's not appropriate for your area. In other words, you need to have a shorter frequency every 30 days, for example, in an area like San Francisco, the example I gave before. Any case, good question. All right, let's see here. This is Siri. Okay, do we get good deals in those kind of areas? Absolutely, Siri. So one advantage of working in these areas, Siri, is you always have volume, you always have velocity. And what happens is it tends to drive up prices at a higher percentage basis than other areas. So here's why that's important. Let's talk about a flipper, for example. Your client is flipping a home, okay? And they're looking at, they want to sell their home obviously as fast as they can. And they want to sell it for the closest to list price or more if they possibly can. All right? So what they'll do is so in those areas, perhaps you can pay more for a property than you normally would, because you know that if you do the remodeling correctly, you don't just have to price it at fair market value. You can actually push the market by as much as 10%. So in other words, in an area like San Francisco, I mean, we're pushing the market out there in some areas by 15%. In other words, say with the average home price is $600,000. Okay, 6 times 15 is 90. We would actually ask $690,000 for our next flip. We literally will push the market. So think about this. We discussed this in other training programs too, but you have to be in front of the market. So if you look at the direction the market is taking, if you follow the trends, and you know that the market is say it's going up, prices are going up, and your average days on market is shrinking, okay, you can push that market 5, 10, 15%. On the other hand, if you're in a market where days on market is going longer, and prices have just stayed pretty static. They haven't really moved up much. You'd want to price ahead of that market and actually price below fair market value. So instead of 600,000, you might price it at 555,000. All right, you would basically drop down ahead of the trend. The trend's going down. You got to price ahead of that trend. You always have to price ahead of the curve, is what I'm getting at here. And I'm sorry I went off on a tangent, Siri, but going full circle here, in these types of markets where inventory's tight, days on market is short, prices are escalating, savvy investors won't just look for the junkers. They're not going to just look for the REOs, the foreclosures and the estate sales. They will look for average middle class homes in those areas that are still lived in. People are living there. They're taking care of it. It's just they haven't really kept it current. The house might have, 20-year-old carpet or 40-year-old kitchen, things like that. What these guys are, and maybe it's one of the older 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom homes, and you guys have seen these neighborhoods all across U.S. and Canada. So you got an older home built in the 50s or 60s, all right, that's going through gentrification. In other words, people are going in there, they're buying those homes, they're building out, they're adding decks, they're adding bathrooms, they're adding a second level. Get one of those traditional homes to 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and a savvy investor will remodel it not just with its current floor plan. They literally will either build up, or they'll tear down walls in the interior and open up kitchens and living and dining room areas. They'll finish basements, maybe make it a walkout basement. Okay, they'll do things like that to change the character of the property. If they can add a second bathroom, they'll add a second bathroom. They'll do all kinds of things to take that property that's in fairly decent shape, but change the floor plan, open it up, and do things out back, for example, like adding a multi-tiered deck down to a zero clearance patio. That is an awesome flipping improvement that people tend to overlook a lot. And so what happens is, they'll buy a place that's still below fair market value for the neighborhood, but not like a 30% off or 50% off because it's an REO or whatever. They'll buy a decent property that maybe needs painting and carpeting, and if they're really good, they'll do things like add maybe a bamboo ceiling or a bamboo floor in an area like the kitchen, and they'll do that decking out back. The point is this, they don't have to gut the thing, all right? They can simply do what we call lipstick and rouge, but add one or two more features that separate the house from the herd, provide more perceived living space. In other words, a zero clearance deck that you step out to brings the outside in and brings the inside out, for example. And then what they do, Siri, is they'll push the market by 10 or 15%. So they'll make up the difference is what I'm getting at. And most investors are not doing that. Most flippers are looking to get the thing half price and remodel it only to fair market value. And what that does is that puts you in the middle of all that competition. And the only way to get outside that competition is by all the marketing that we do, number one. Number two is, for your flippers, don't just do a good old-fashioned 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom flip. Look for the 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and modify it so it's now up to par with the newer homes, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. And put on new fixtures, new features, things like that. And that's how the savvy flippers flip in a market like this. The other thing to do is this. They don't just flip single-family homes. Smart, successful flippers also flip small rental properties, or actually big rental properties too, for that matter. So ponder that for a second. I'm going to give you an example, but just think about that. Flipping a small rental versus flipping a single-family home. And I have clients who do that on a regular basis. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients flipped a 15-unit building, bought it. It probably, I would say, 25% off of retail for the area, okay? And then while he owned it, which didn't take that long, basically did this in a year, throughout the year, and actually if you guys want to put your pencils down, just put your pencils down and just pay attention, because this is going to be a great strategy for you and your investors. So you look for a small multi-unit, okay, that's maybe hasn't been updated for a while, and has a solid tenant base, but maybe the rents are well below market value. So what this gentleman did is he went in, and as the leases came due, he remodeled each unit to the next level, the next what we call market level. So instead of the tenants paying $1,000 a month for the average, two-bedroom apartment, they were now willing to pay $1,500, not just because he did the painting and carpeting, but he upgraded the unit to the next level of marketability. He actually created a new market, and he started attracting newer and higher paying tenants who had typically, better jobs, things like that. All right. So at the end of the day, this guy made $290,000 on the sale, and while he owned it, he had a positive cash flow from all the rental units that were in there. So what I'm getting at is flipping a multi-unit allows you to generate cash flow while you own the property, while you're remodeling it, okay, as opposed to a single-family home that's just bleeding profusely. All right. And at the end of the day, you've increased the value physically. In physical terms, it's a better building. In financial terms, it's far more productive because you're getting 50% more rent, 1,500 versus 1,000, which is what the banks look at. So you've got a much more valuable property physically and financially. So this guy made cash flow while he owned it, and he never went negative, and he made a very handsome profit when he sold it. In fact, he took my brother and me skiing with him to Vail, Colorado as a special gift for him making all that money. Okay? So just a thought there. Let's see, Herminia, what do you think about the Bronx, New York? We have low inventory. So Herminia, oh, by the way, Herminia, remember I'm coming back there the week of March 6th through 10th. So I want to, Fassel and I might get together. Perhaps the three of us can get together. You're in two different marketplaces. But the answer to your question is absolutely yes. There is inventory there. You're just not seeing it because you're probably relying only on the MLS. So I want you to start using the techniques in the program, like the letter, for example, or visiting small local banks, to get inventory outside the MLS. In other words, you're going under the radar screen. So in other words, the letter that we give you, there's a couple of versions of it, but the one that's the shortest version could be used to attract owners of multi-unit buildings, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 units. Okay, you've got a bunch of those in your area. You've got a lot of triplexes, by the way. In Bronx, you've got a lot of triplexes, a lot of fourplexes. In fact, if any of you guys are on from Queens, Queens has, actually Brooklyn too for that matter, a lot of what we call row houses, townhomes, that are actually triplexes. Basement unit, first floor unit, and then the top three floors make another unit, sometimes fourplexes, but a lot of triplexes, right? They're out there in droves. And what you do is you go into your county's tax assessment database and look for all the triplexes, in your case, Herminia, in one of the Bronx zip codes, okay? And you would determine which zip codes by using the school report. Okay, so coming full circle, you've got your school report that tells you what areas by school information is where you want to be, and also price range. You use another tool called Melissa Data to get those zip codes. I'm sorry, to get the neighborhood data based on zip code. I'll show you that next, by the way. It's called Melissa Data. It's the girl's name, Melissa, M-E-L-I-S-S-A. All right, and you've got that in your course content, by the way. So you figure out. Let's say you're looking for people who own a fourplex. You will look for fourplexes that have a zip code match on the Melissa Data. All right. Now you're only looking for fourplexes in the right areas, the right inventory in the right areas. You can further narrow it down, Herminia, and we'll do this in another meeting in much more detail, another webinar, excuse me. Use the letter to attract the owners of those properties, but only focus on the owners, the landlords who are going through an eviction at that time. Because landlords who are going through an eviction are certainly more motivated to want to sell than any other landlord who's not going through an eviction, okay? Okay, so what this does is, I mean, this gives you the foundation, knowing where exactly at the neighborhood level where to operate, and later on the marketing tools show you how to get those people in the properties. So good question. Okay, let's see here, Carol. Did you pull this format straight from MLS with all dollar amounts? The format actually, Carol, is homegrown. I didn't create this. I discovered it at one of our market centers years back. So the Excel spreadsheet, I have to give you the spreadsheet to make this work. And then you plug in the data from your MLS. So you're getting the actual, these individual cells, the data in the cell does come from your MLS search, okay? But the program itself, the Excel spreadsheet, we just give it to you as part of the program. In any case, let's see here, or did you simply type it all in? Yeah, so each cell has to be typed in because they're individual searches, Carol, and then down the road, you just simply update it every 90 days, for example. So the first time you create this, it will take a while, probably a couple hours. But then once it's created, all those searches are created. So you save them, obviously, and then every 90 days, you simply update the search. That's all you do, okay? In any case, let's see here. What is next? Okay, how do you add a tab? Well, that's probably an Excel question. You simply, what you could do is you could hover over the column. This is, so Maria, don't, I'm not an Excel expert, but what you would, I think you do is hover over the column, do a right click. Now this is a PDF, so it's not going to work here, but do a right click on that, and it'll give you a drop down where it'll say something like add a column, and you can click on add a column, then you can add a column. You can also copy the column, add it at the end. So that's how you do that. Let's see, this is Maxine says, I do. Okay, great. Herminia says, thanks. You're very welcome. Fassel says, thanks. Got it. Makes sense. That's Siri. You're very welcome. How about in New Jersey? Yeah, New Jersey, what I would do in New Jersey, this is Jacqueline, I would do it at the high school level. Okay, you can do it at the school district level. I would do it at the high school level. All right, and the reason is particularly northern New Jersey. In other words, the closer you get to New York City, the higher population density. And the school district would be a pretty big area, but a high school cluster would be very manageable. All right, and we have several students who've already done that just in the last, since I was there back in July and August and September. So the results are, I think you're going to be pretty startled when you see the numbers you get. It's really surprising to find out that an area you thought was an awesome area, again, it could be very beautiful, but it's not the area you want to operate in because there's just not a lot of activity, right? Or you might find an area where you find out that a lot of people want to sell, but nobody wants to buy. And if you go research, you'll find out something may have happened. Maybe there was the school got a bad ranking, a bad school rating. Okay, by the way, there's other databases that give you school rankings. Or maybe one of the local industries just announced it's going to relocate in 3 years. And you'd be amazed at how much of an impact that'll have on a community. So in any case, the school report gives you the actual raw data that shows you exactly where you need to operate with your license, and more importantly, or just as importantly, where your clients who are flippers in this case should be operating. And I'll tell you what, Jacqueline, I can't remember the specific market center you're in. Actually, what market center are you in? Just type it in and let me know. Let's see. Oh, by the way, Roger's saying upper here is normally 60 days average. So, Roger, I would keep that as a 90-day report then. Let's see. Maxine says, would be nice to have a tech person to build a program to pull this from our MLS on a regular basis. So Maxine, what we suggest is have the office secretary do it. If you're KW, we call that your DOFI, Director of First Impression, because they understand Excel spreadsheet, and they can do the pulls from the MLS system. There are tools that allow you to do this in a more systematized fashion. It just depends on your MLS, and they're all different. By the way, there's four different MLS software packages out there. It's just that there's 404 versions of those 4 systems. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Denise is asking, do you include the pending sales as sold on a report? Good question, Denise. No, we only include it if it's actually been sold, and the reason is pendings can sometimes drag on longer than you were hoping they would. But more importantly, a pending listing technically is off the market. I mean, there are exceptions, but for the most part, when a property is under contract, it's no longer actively for sale, technically, right? However, it also has not been sold, so it doesn't count as a sold yet. So we actually don't count the pendings. Good question. Let's see here. This is Herminia, says, thanks, you're very welcome. Joe is asking, okay, who is working with you in Bergen? I'd love to meet them and get to know them. So Joe, what you want to do is email Beverly, and she will tell you who's in Bergen County. We do have several students there, all right? And you should get together and team up and share notes and share information. And actually, for everybody on the call here, well, I'll give you a real big tip. For those of you who are ready, willing, and able, you can go a long ways productivity-wise by teaming up with another investor agent. And don't be afraid to share. It's so much different than the owner-occupant business. You know, I used to share with agents not even in my own company. I would do joint ventures with agents for Remax, for example. And by the way, let me explain that. Joint venture in this case, within this context, means something like a workshop. We would do an open forum workshop at a local library, and I would be the person up front speaking, and Bill would go around the room, sit at the tables, and work with the people, showing them how to use the forms, like the cash flow calculator, for example. And people love that tag team approach, the team approach, because now they feel like they got the expert, two experts, and they have somebody giving them personal attention right there on the spot in the workshop. And what you do is if somebody, let's say, somebody approaches Bill at the end of the night and says, hey, Bill, I appreciate you hooking me with that workshop. I'm ready to invest now. Will you help me? And Bill should say yes. On the other hand, if somebody comes up to me and says, hey, Gary, Bill's a great guy, but I just feel more connected to you. I like your personality. I would rather work with you. Will you work with me? Of course, the answer is yes. So the bottom line is the consumer chooses. They'll choose, and they'll choose one of you. Sometimes we'll say, well, I don't know who to work with. In that case, Bill and I would just say, well, where are you located? What types of properties do you want to work with? And then we would determine who the best fit is that way. Always put the consumer first, but I will tell you this, guys, you can go a lot further, a lot faster by teaming up with somebody else. So, Joe, that is an excellent, excellent question. Okay, sorry, let's see here. What's next? I'm at Woodcliff Lake. Yeah, call or email Beverly, Joe, and ask her who came out of your market center, and more importantly, other market centers in your area. Oh, Fassel. There, holy smokes. Fassel and I believe Hans is out there too. So Joe, meet Fassel, Fassel, meet Joe. You can Google each other, by the way, or go into kw.com and type in each other's names, or look at the market center and see who is see who's out there. So yeah, Roger, it's Fassel Khan, K-A-H-N. Great, good citizen, and also a heck of a nice guy, and like hanging around with him. We talk pretty regular on a regular, say, monthly basis. So you guys should connect with each other. And by the way, Roger is another great guy. Matter of fact, all you guys are good guys. Fassel says, stop lying. You're a humble guy. Okay, let's see. Roger says, I will be at Woodcliff Lake Thursday for a class. Excellent. So make yourself known, and you're welcome, Joe. You're very welcome. Hey guys, let me do one more thing here before we call it a day. I want to make sure everybody is comfortable with the school report, and I will tell you this. You can just type in yes or no. But practice is what gives you the comfort level. So many of you who've just spoken to, in fact, have already built. In fact, Roger, I think you built one early on, way back when, if I'm not mistaken. So remember, other people have walked in your shoes and done this, and none of us. I mean, I'm probably the least likely person to be doing this, but even I did it. But the best thing you can do, guys, is just actually do it. Just literally put one foot in front of the other. Look online on the website for the layout of the school report. Create a few searches and start to fill in the blanks. Okay, but more importantly, check and see. Your team leaders all had this because I sent it to them all. See if they wouldn't do it for the market center. Have the receptionist do it for everybody, because if you all do it, you're all going to get the same results. So you might as well just have one person do it. And the likelihood of every agent in the office using this is not very likely, because most agents don't pay attention. But you guys do, and you got this at your disposal, and you had other people do the work for you. Okay. any case, I just wanted to put that thought in there. So let's see. This is from Jamie. Uh, let's see. Hang on one second. What is the protocol for outer rural areas that have multiple MLS companies? Um, well, that's happened, Jamie. And what you want to do is still create one report. But if you want to go broad across an entire county, for example, that's served by a couple MLS systems, you're going to have to set up your searches for each MLS system, but you can have the results from that search feed the same one Excel spreadsheet. And I think we did that out in, I don't think you might be from, we have some students from way out in Bloomington, Indiana, Illinois, excuse me, which is sort of like Peoria. It's way out there, a couple hours south of Chicago by 2 to 3 hours south, not close enough to St. Louis. And a lot of their clients are farmers who, by the way, if you're ever concerned about being in a rural area, make farmers your clientele, because sometimes they want to pick up duplexes and single-family homes to put their workers in. They'll own them and they'll rent them out to the workers on the farms. We've seen that happen in a lot of places. It's a very profitable venture, so keep that in mind. So Jamie, take that one to heart. That'll give you some help there. Okay, so Joe says, very comfortable. I do something similar. I just more limited in geographic area and some foreknowledge of market volume and velocity. Excellent. This is a more systematic and extensive another. You're very welcome. I'm glad to share it with you. Okay, Hermedia says we have it in our office every month. Boy, that is good news, Hermedia. And looks like the typing's got East Chester and it must be Scarsdale. It says scan, it must be Scarsdale. Okay. Okay, guys, that was pretty much what I wanted to cover tonight. Excellent participation tonight. I appreciate you guys participating. I hope this keeps you inspired. And from time to time, if you guys could do me a huge favor, shoot me an email. Let me know what you're currently working on and what you need help on, what your results are, because it helps us know how to further fine-tune and serve you better. Number one. Number two is it's very inspiring for other agents to see what's possible for themselves. And there's nothing like paying it forward. If you guys can help me help others, man, you believe me, we call it prosperity through service. If we open up other people get what they want, you'll be able to get plenty of what you want. And I'm always looking to see how I can help people. So just give me the opportunity, step up to the plate, send me what you got, and let's see how we can continue to work together and help others in the process. Also, a lot of you have been asking about coaching. I normally don't really talk about that explicitly. However, it's come up a lot lately, and I do have private coaching students that we work with on a more one-on-one basis, not just through the content, but through more goal setting, planning, behavioral patterns, things like that. If you are interested, just let me know. I'll do, maybe I'll have Beverly send something out here eventually, but it's a little more involved. It takes a little bit more dedication than doing group level training. But I can tell you, I've done that for years, and the results speak pretty phenomenal. I mean, I still today spend $36,000 a year on my own private coaching. In my first year doing it, I spent $12,000, and it was worth it. I mean, I literally, within that year, my production went from, I think it was 186,000 to 257 or something like that. And so it was like if I invested that money in the stock market, that would have been, I don't know what that comes out to, maybe a 10-to-1 return on my money. So keep that in mind, whether it's me or somebody else. I know who the good guys are. I can help you out if you want to choose someone else other than me. Just let me know. If you're interested, just let me know. That's all I'm saying. Some of you are ready for that. We have a lot of people on here who are really top producers, and you're not sure what to do next or how to really open it up to have a team, for example, or maybe launch your own business center. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. All right. Okay. Let me see here. Let's do one more round of questions, and then we'll call it a day. This is from Fassel. Fassel says, who is the successful group in your program that has 100 plus in this group and uses Meetup? Okay, so Fassel, there's a guy named Daniel David in Lexington, Kentucky. Last check in September, he had 160 people in his group. There's a couple of students in your area. I'm trying to remember the one girl from, she's lower down in the state. She's more like Atlantic City. And in her second month festival, she had like 30 some odd people. It was uncanny. Actually, that's about normal. I would say on average, you should expect 20 some odd people the first month and increase by 50% the subsequent months. So Vassal, you and I should probably have a strategy call. And also, what we'll do is we can put a feeler out who does the meetup combined with the workshop, and we'll get you teamed up with some other people. And we've done that. There is a guy named, he's not one of our students. His name is shoot, I can't remember his name. He was in Northern Virginia. Oh, Kasha. Kasha's his name. He's a KW guy. He has like 600 people in his group. I mean, he said one time he has 200 people show up even when it snows. You know, just amazing, amazing stuff. Let's see. This is. Let's see. I'm sorry. Let me get my bearing straight. Another question here. Hi, Takia. I haven't heard from you in a long time. Hope you're doing well. Takia says, okay, I'm in the Washington, D.C. metro area. Are there anyone here from this area? Absolutely. So, Takia, email Beverly. She'll tell you who the other students are in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. Okay? And if you're out from, say, Marlborough Heights, Maryland, there's a couple people out there. One of your colleagues, in fact, his name's Sid Hadim. And he's not a student, but he's KW, and he and I are in the same mastermind group together. And he does all kinds of cool stuff out there. Also, there's another couple that did one together, as I recall, last year. Okay, this is Maria. Okay, who in my market center is making good progress? So, Maria, I can't remember the market center you're in, but let's, if you could ask Beverly who are the folks in your market center, she can give you their names, or in the surrounding market centers too, by the way. Okay. Okay, that makes sense to the call. Excellent. Okay, guys, well, that's pretty much it. I know we dragged over a little bit, but we also started a little bit late. Once again, I appreciate participation. We'll be meeting again next week. I believe that's on Tuesday. Don't quote me on that. Check the email, and also share with me what you're doing, what's working for you, what you need help on, and also what you want to discuss in these things on these webinars. I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, God bless all of you, and we'll see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.